Hi, this is Jason with another episode of the Biblical Cinematic Universe. And today I'm talking about Mary and Joseph, a story of faith from 1979, which appears to be a TV movie. I could not find too much information about this. It's from IMDb, I've looked up. And it stars Blaine Baker as Mary, Jeff East as Joseph, and Lloyd Bochner as Matthew, which is Joseph's uncle. And this movie, basically, it was most likely a TV movie from the looks of it, or TV miniseries. I saw this version on YouTube in two parts, and I just want to tell you a little bit about it. So, first of all, in terms of famous actors, Lloyd Bochner, comic book fans might recognize him as the mayor of Gotham City in the Batman animated series from the 90s with Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill. And then Jeff East is more famous because he played young Clark Kent, a teenager in Smallville in Superman the movie in 1978, voiced over by Christopher Reeve, of course. But if you remember those scenes where you see Clark as a teenager in Smallville, that Jeff East was that young Clark Kent, who also you also see his dad die as well there. So he plays Joseph in this. So. In terms of biblical stories in the movie, this is focusing on Mary and Joseph's point of view only, up until the point of the birth of Christ. There are going to be spoilers for this, for a Bible movie that's based from 1979. From biblical story points, you have the Zacharias and Elizabeth are big characters in this story, so we do focus a lot on them and their story from the Bible. We do focus on Gabriel having an announcement from Gabriel speaking to Mary, and we also, at the very end of the movie, literally close to the end of the movie, a lot later than you would think, we have Gabriel have a dream. Gabriel speak to Joseph in a dream about Mary as well, and then of course Mary and Joseph getting married, and then baby Jesus being born. Even the shepherds are really like an afterthought in the last scene. King Herod is also a minor character in the movie, although his presence is in the whole movie. So from a cinematic point of view, I would say if you like old TV movies and old Bible movies, there is a lot to enjoy here, because up until 45 minutes into the movie, it really is the backstory of these characters. Now, it does get a little bit into the Catholic background in terms of naming Mary's parents as Anne and Joseph, but in this one, they're contemporary age. They're both around the same age. Joseph doesn't even have a beard at one point. Also, there's some really interesting plot lines that I thought might be not from the Bible, but they do bring a life to the historical context of the times. So the biggest one being Joseph kind of being a very proud Jew who wants to fight against the Romans and has to work through the story arc as Mary convinces him that peace is the way and not taking arms. And so that becomes a story arc through the entire movie of Joseph thinking whether he wants to join the Zealots and fight the Romans. Also, an interesting storyline is, of course, with when Mary, in this one, when Mary has the vision and is told about baby Jesus being born, and that God's going to make her pregnant, she foolishly tells Joseph right away. She actually tells Joseph right away. Actually, it happens in this movie after her father is condemned and crucified. So that was interesting in this version of the story, that her father was crucified, but also that she has a vision while in the cave, kind of almost echoes of Mary and Mary Magdalene and the resurrection, but she's in the cave while Gabriel speaks to her, and then she immediately tells Joseph. So it's not even 3 months or 6 months and she's visibly pregnant, like in a lot of movies. She immediately tells Joseph, but Joseph thinks that she's gone Looney Tunes because her dad died, and that maybe she's thinking that, my dad died, and Joseph's going to be the the father of the Messiah, and so she doesn't even think that she doesn't even understand how this is all going to be. She thinks maybe even Joseph might be the father of the Messiah, until later, a few months later, when she decides to, after Joseph tells her not to, she decides to tell people, by the way, I'm going to be the mother of the Messiah, and it's not going to happen by Joseph, it's going to happen by the Spirit of God. And then the whole community thinks she's crazy, and they're going to stone her. And then at that point, Joseph comes in to stop the stoning, and basically he defends her by saying that she's Looney Tunes, because he knows that they're not going to believe the other charge. They're going to just call it a blasphemy charge, and he actually accepts a flogging on her behalf, so that she will not be punished, which I thought again was interesting. And at that point, I thought that Joseph was going to come back to Mary, but no, it's actually another gap of time before Joseph until Joseph does have the dream, which leads him to come back to Mary. Also, another thing is that they break up in the Bible where Gabriel says, Mary, you're chosen by God, and then Mary, go visit Elizabeth. They break that as into two separate events. The second event happening after that flogging scene. A lot of unpacking that I'm giving to this story. So I would say that I would give it a 6 out of 10. At first I wanted to give it a little bit higher, but there's a lot of interesting, like I said, they're not biblical stories, but they are historically accurate in terms of the struggle the Jewish people had with the Romans and with King Herod, and I thought that part was really interesting. King Herod, the shepherds, the wise men are not part of this film. Don't look for them, really. This is a film about Joseph and Mary, them grappling with each other and their love for each other. It is a really well-told love story. I remember seeing parts of it in the 90s. I am really glad I saw this, and it is one of the better Joseph and Mary nativity stories from the past. So I recommend it, and that's my review and giving you some thoughts on the biblical stories and the historical stories that they added for context and dramatic purposes, which I thought were really well done, in Mary and Joseph, A Story of Faith from 1979. Thanks.